Hello, welcome to the Yes You May live stream podcast with me, Amanda May Gray. Today, I've got a fun guest on who is really going to inspire you, maybe not just to get out and walk, but to do it on your own terms and choose to do it by yourself when needed. Her name is Polly, and she is the first woman to have walked around the world. The world, the whole thing, which I think is super cool. And so, without further ado, I'd like to bring her on. Polly,
Hey, Amanda.
welcome to the show. Ow, just hit my own arm. How are you today?
I'm pretty good. Thank you. Yeah, I just got back from my walk this morning.
Did you? How far did you walk this morning?
I just walk like an hour or something,
Oh, just an hour.
Just an hour. I go run errands by foot.
That's awesome. I love that. I try to walk my dog every single morning, and it's like, I try to tell people, like, it's such a good way to start your day. It's just get out.
Oh, it is.
Put your phone away.
I can tell when I don't do it. You
Yeah.
get twitchy and
Yeah.
I gotta go outside and just kind of have my own little therapy session, I guess, by myself.
I see nothing wrong with that. I wanted to bring you in, one, because I thought you looked like fun, and that's just kind of my thing. And two, I think it's such a big endeavor to decide to do something by yourself, like traveling the world on foot. And I think there's a lot that we can learn from you today. So tell me a little bit about how you decided, you know what, I am going to go walk the world and actually do it. Like, where did that come from?
It came from a childhood dream. I was I grew up in Minneapolis,
Okay.
Minnesota, and by all accounts, an idyllic childhood and everything. And I thought everyone had this kind of life, your friends, your neighborhood friends running out the door in the morning and playing tag and kickball and climbing trees and making up games and this kind of thing. And it was the age of 12 when I started to discover that there's this whole big world going on around me that isn't the same as my little world on First Avenue.
Awesome.
And that was through the newspapers. So every morning I would get up and scoop up the Minneapolis Star and Tribune and sit at the breakfast table feeling like a grown-up and reading about places that, of course, I'd never heard of. And, as life goes on, I've discovered that it's that age. It's the 12, 13-year-old age group where kids do start realizing like their wants and dreams. It really is that age, because I've talked to a lot of people, of course, in that age group, and they start asking me things. So I guess that part's not unusual. But yeah, I started reading the paper and started hearing about places called, it was the summer of '74. So I'm hearing about places called Vietnam and seeing kids live a very different life, and Thailand and Australia, and just got really curious about the world and how it ticks. And then one morning reading that Minneapolis Star and Tribune, I saw a photo of this guy pulling a buggy behind him. And he was walking on an empty road. And I leaned in to read the caption, and it said, David Kunst walking down Highway 6 in Colorado on his way home to Minnesota to become the first man to walk around the world. And that's when I thought, oh, I didn't know you could think of such a thing if you were from Minnesota. So that's when I just got this idea. Well, I could do that. Yeah, that's what I want to do. I want to go walk around the world. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
How long did it take from then to actualization of like, okay, I'm really going to do this? Because at 12, everything's very idealistic, and obviously
it is. And then I knew that was thinking way outside the box for a 12-year-old girl from Minnesota in 1974. So I kind of tucked that idea away in the back of my head and went on with my life. It was always sitting there, but I had never even said it out loud to anybody. Really? My mom says, boy, I don't remember you even mentioning that. So I can't say it was in the forefront of my mind, but it was always sitting in that back. And dreams come and go, playing the violin. Well, that lasted a week, right? I'm going to be an Olympian.
That's so funny you should say that. Yeah, I played multiple instruments for a week.
So the dreams come and go. That one always kind of hung around, but I knew I wasn't, even then, I guess as a kid, I knew if I'm going to say it out loud, that makes it real. And so I never said it out loud, but it always was there. And, as I got older into my 20s, I was doing the backpacker travel thing. And it was always there. Someday I want to walk around the world. It became more in the forefront heading into my mid 30s.
Okay.
And I had actually seen an article about this woman in Britain who had finished her walk around the world. And I thought, wow, she did it. Somebody did what I always wanted to do. Son of a gun.
Right.
And then like a couple months later, it came out that she had in fact cheated.
Oh,
What's cheated,
yeah,
well,
right. What does that
she
mean
got
when you're trying to walk around
rides
the world?
quite a ways. And frankly, I still give her a lot of credit. She did things that I didn't do, but I did walk every step except for, of course, across the ocean.
You know,
But yeah,
just that.
so that's when I thought, oh, well, maybe that's my cue that now's the time. So that's when I put it together. Then I left when I was 37.
Wow.
From the age of 12, first thinking about it to when I left was age 37, and kind of packed up my life and put it away and started marching west out of town on August 1st, 1999. And I headed west, and took 5 years.
Wow. That's so cool. I like what I heard from you there was like you had this idea, you kind of were taking smaller, dare I say steps. I don't I don't have a better word. I know. Dang it. By backpacking in general and just kind of seeing other people, still keeping it in the back of your mind, and then seeing proof that somebody else who was relatable, aka a woman, being able to do it, even though it came out that she didn't necessarily fully do it, it still gave you that permission, gave you that like, huh, well, if she can do it, I can do it kind of a thing too.
Yeah, it's funny because I knew I could do it. I really
Yeah.
did. Some things you just envision, and I
I
could
know.
see it really clearly. I could, and now that I had, I had a day pack, not a backpack, a day pack. Do you understand?
Yeah. Yeah. The big, yeah.
Yeah, just a little itty bitty guy, little day pack, and like you'd go to school with. It was a school sack, and I went and traveled in Europe for 5 months with that little thing, and I really believe that I was doing that subconsciously to
Prepare.
prepare for
Yeah.
this. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Well, it takes small steps sometimes to be able to.
of course, even traveling in the best of times, best of circumstances, all the money in the world, traveling can be tough. Constant decision making, constant planning, right? So that's the best of times. And so backpacking with a little book bag for 5 months, I mean, and frankly, no money. Okay. No money. I was living under $5 a day. Okay. And that's not unusual. People do that, but
Yeah.
yeah, the hitchhiking and the jumping on trains and the sleeping in train stations. I took a shower. I used to take showers, those public places that have the sprinklers going on. I would take showers there.
It's fantastic. You're like, la
Yes.
la la, it's lovely.
In Italy, they show the Colosseum.
Yes.
Every time I see that come up in a movie or TV or something, I'm like, yeah, I showered in front of there because they have the sprinklers going. So I went and showered. Anyway, so I had sort of prepared myself for, tough times and sort of nomadic. I don't want to say homeless, but I mean, sure, you have no home, but I don't know, home free would be more the term. And I was preparing for that. You're preparing to be unprepared because things are always coming at you. And so I really believe that little 5-month trip traipsing around Europe was solidly in preparation for this.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
It was like your test ground.
Yeah. And then there was another sort of training ground I did. I had decided that I wanted to do this, but still wasn't saying it out loud.
Right.
Okay. And then there's this walk across England. Takes 2 weeks. And England ain't that wide, So I'm like,
Not the
okay,
US.
I'll go see if I like this lifestyle.
Sure.
So I had the backpacker thing. I had the backpack, and there's a chosen trail for you that you follow, and you stay at bed and breakfast. It was before Airbnbs, but they had bed and breakfasts and whatever. Well, I didn't like it at all. I mean, it was beautiful.
Really?
Yeah, but I didn't like the lifestyle. I just didn't like it. And I remember thinking when I got done, well, I didn't really like that lifestyle. Oh, well, I better start training for my walk. It's like, now I think about of them. Like, what the hell was that all about? It must have been such a driven focus in my head. It's like, and it, sure enough, I like that when I look back at that little episode, that my walk around the world was nothing like that 2-week walk across England.
Really?
Yeah,
Why?
it was like a chosen path, and it was,
Mm.
through people's backyards and up over their fences and past the animals and, hi, cow, it's just, and, you know, and
Yeah.
there were a lot of people actually doing the same walk. So it really wasn't the same thing.
Because so many it was pre-planned, other people were doing it, you weren't in control of any really choices. It was laid out for you.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I don't want, it's hard to say I didn't like it, but I didn't like the lifestyle that was. But I never even had the thought, well, I didn't like that, so I won't do my walk. Like, never
That's so
even
funny.
flashed through my head. It was like, well, I didn't really like that. Oh, well, time to plan my walk. So, isn't that
But
the
that's
weirdest
such an
thing?
interesting point because so many people will try something similar, right, to whatever it is they wanna do, and then be like, "Oh, well, I didn't enjoy that specific thing, so therefore the rest of this won't work." So I think there's a big lesson there in, like, just because you learned something small or tried one small thing doesn't mean the more elaborate plan won't still be enjoyable. And you should still push ahead with the original plan and just learn, right? I'm sure you learned a lot from that 2 weeks, what you didn't like, and then you didn't have to do that again, and you knew not to do those things.
I
What do
guess,
you think you learned?
well, I don't know, but the picture in my head for my actual walk was very different.
Mm,
Um, it wasn't going to be walking through farmland, and that had its perks, during a rainy season and through people's backyards. Mine was going to be town to town where I'd sit in cafes and, talk to the locals. And it really was. It did
that's
end up
awesome.
being like that. So I think it was related to, but not the full picture of my walk. And there must have been something going on in the back catacombs of my head that sort of knew that, because I didn't even think twice. So,
That's awesome.
which I find amusing. But yeah, it took me 3 years total from the idea that oh yeah, maybe it's time. It's now or never, frankly. At the age of 37, for me, was this happy zone of, I have now enough life experience to
Right.
take what the world's going to throw at me, yet I'm young enough to physically take the journey.
Mm,
Okay. So if I were to go in my 20s, if I'd have walked around the world then, ugh, I just don't think I would have been made the right decisions, because
yeah.
there are some, you know, when people come to me now, I've sort of inadvertently become the matriarch of the long distance walker. And when I meet with them, they always ask if they can, meet with me.
That makes sense.
And I don't give advice, because everyone's journey is going to be different. It's a different time. They have different, objectives and all the rest of it. But
That's
they
so
inevitably ask, and
Of
then
course.
I'll say, listen, I just got one thing to say, is I want you to take every single opportunity to not be stupid. That's all I got, right? Because you really
Oh
can
my
be
god, I
stupid,
love it though. I love that though.
right? Every opportunity. And I could have seen myself making those stupid decisions in my 20s, because you
Yeah.
have to balance on this line of what's a new experience and what is a bad decision. Like getting on a sailboat between islands in Greece or between countries with a bunch of men, and you can't speak the language. Is that a fun adventure, or is that just a stupid decision? Okay.
Yeah.
So in my 20s, I would have gone, oh, that sounds like fun. Let's go. Okay. Hashtag stupid idea. Or, so as you get older and you made stupid decisions, you might pause a minute and go, no, maybe this falls on the other side of that line, which is stupid decision, not adventure. So that's what I mean by, I think I learned enough by the age of 37 to not make the stupid
Right.
adventures / stupid decisions you would in your 20s. And then physically I could take the journey. So, because I don't know that I could do that now, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. That makes sense. That makes total sense. It's
And I
funny because I've always said that, like, just because I can handle myself in a situation doesn't mean I need to put myself in that situation.
doesn't mean you should. Yeah.
Right. Just because I feel like, I mean, I've walked around some cities by myself abroad, and then there's times where you're like, "Yeah, but just because you could do it doesn't mean you should do it." Yeah, it's because you can be out at 2 AM where you don't know the language and it's dark, doesn't mean you should be, you know? You just choose smarter, right?
Yes, and I got smarter along the way, of course, because you're making more stupid decisions.
Right.
Like, just like add that to the pot,
Right.
Let's learn as we go.
Yeah.
But of course, I think that's just getting older too. And I also think that, particularly as women, okay,
Mhm.
there may
Yeah.
be something with men too, but I think particularly as women, we tend to start nesting into our 40s. There's a nesting. And I was definitely hitting the nesting before I even left. So I was like, I better get a move on, right? And then, sure enough, I finished at the age of 43.
Wow.
And well, I guess I wasn't quite 43 yet, but anyway, well into nesting phase. And I, bought a little condo. Luckily, luckily, that's when I landed was 2004 and
Mhm.
into 2005. And that's when they were giving mortgages to anybody and everybody. It's like, well, I don't have a job, but I plan on getting one. It's like, good enough. Sign here.
And I kinda haven't had one or a residence
And I
of.
haven't had a job for 5 years, but anyway, so I was really nesting. Just plunk me anywhere. I'm going to be really happy right now. So
You say you didn't have a job for 5 years, and I assumed that there was, like, some odds here and there. How did you have the courage to keep going, to just be like, "I'm gonna figure this out," to keep moving instead of being like, "Well, crap, I need money." Did you ever find you were in a city longer than another just because you needed to make some cash, or.
that was the picture in my head, is like,
Yeah.
I'm going to make it happen. If I have to stop and work for a little bit, then I will do that. Okay. It wasn't like this deadline. I got to be done by
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, yeah.
That wasn't the case. But equally, again, I was pulling into my 40s and I was starting to nest and I knew it. I traveled all through my 20s into my 30s. So the idea that I had this wanderlust was feigning at that point,
Mm,
you know. So that would have been an interesting journey if I'd gone in my 20s. I mean, it's a funny question to think about how the journey would have been different in my 20s because I wouldn't be going through that.
right.
So, and in fact, I did go backpacking in my 20s. So there was that 5-month Europe thing with the book bag and everything. But then I also left at the age of 27, I think, and went off to New Zealand just to do some hiking and
Mm,
ended up staying for 5 years. And then traveled all around the Southeast Asia and the South Pacific quite extensively, actually. And so I had done that travel, wanderlust, backpacker, subculture lifestyle. I'd done
and
that.
and
And
you had
that
some
itch was
ideas of
scratched.
the area.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I also knew kind of how that travel world worked when
Yeah.
you're, the solo traveler and the youth hostel and the buses and I knew how all that stuff worked and the guidebooks to get what to expect, what not to expect. The again, stupid decisions. I'd sort of nailed all that down. so, uh,
Love it.
and again, I think about that thinking, I'll bet that also was sort of subconscious training for
Oh, absolutely.
my walk. And so, yeah, by the time I really got serious about doing my walk, maybe that's why I could see it so clearly. I could see that I could do this. I could handle the hurdles that were going to be, you know, in my path. And what I discovered is that you really have to learn to be prepared to be unprepared, because that's what's going to happen. You can't plan all the hurdles that are going to come in your path, just like in business. You can't plan, well, I expect in 2 years this to be an issue, so I'll plan for it now. You can't. And that's why you have to be able to, how you can handle a problem when it hits you, because it's going to, you know. And when I talk to people about this sort of element, this lesson learned, it's in every big journey in our lives. Big journeys meaning marriage, having kids, starting a business. If you expect any of those to go absolutely smoothly, you're just not being realistic.
Right.
You have to ask yourself, how are we going to handle those problems when they hit? Because you don't know what they are now. So, you know, how do you do that? Well, you pause for a minute. I mean, you just pause. And then you either have the discussion, you reach out to your team. So who's your team? You know, for me, the team was that next fool that's driving down the road right now that he got no idea. He's a part of my team. I'm like stepping out, waving someone down. Do you have something to eat? Who is on your team? Do you call your mom? Do you call your best friend? Whatever the problem is, but you pause for a moment, so you're making good decisions. I was in the Muslim world during 9/11.
Oh.
And when that hit, of course, I was getting all kinds of phone calls. Texting didn't quite exist yet.
Okay. Yeah. No, you're right.
And not everyone, most everyone was getting on email by then. That was 2001. And people really started scrambling to get on this thing called email in 1999, 2000. So most of us were on that. Yeah, and everyone was emailing, calling. What's your escape plan? What's your emergency escape plan?
Right.
It's like, well, calm down. And I knew by now how to handle these unexpected hurdles. So it's like, okay, calm down. You don't want to make a knee-jerk reaction.
Right.
So I just reached out to the people around me. I was getting a lot of support at that time from, I don't know if you know, the Lions clubs and Rotary clubs, and they were just really overwhelmingly helping me. And so, and very, very highly connected, highly regarded people. And they are so powerful that when they talk about something, everybody listens, including the government. So right after 9/11 and everyone's saying, you know, what are you going to do? I decided, you know, I'm going to talk to these guys and see if they can reach out to the International Lions Club president and ask if he would consider an official international sponsorship. Because until that point, it had just sort of been, you know, one Lions Club in one town reaching out to the next town, reaching out to the next town, right? So if I had a bigger, wider support around the world, you know, that would help, certainly as I'm heading into Southeast Asia with the wars looming. And that's exactly what happened. So they reached out to me at dinner that night and they said, he loves the idea, we're in. So the whole Lions Club internationally started gathering behind me and sort of, you know, making sure I remained safe, you know, as I continued up through Malaysia and into Thailand and across India. And the Lions clubs were helping, and Rotary clubs as well. So that's what I mean by, you know, just take a breath, just pause for a moment and calm down, and because you're not going to make good decisions with a knee-jerk reaction. So I've learned that, and I take that with me now. And, you know, when people say, you know, now with all this distance, what is it, 20 years, you know, since then anyway.
Yeah, it has been.
Yeah. What are the lessons learned? I knew that lesson then when it was happening. It's like, I don't need all this distance between me to figure that lesson out.
Right. Right. You were there.
Yeah.
You had it.
That lesson. It's like, oh, this looks familiar. All right. Meaning, okay, another problem. So I started to see this pattern where it was like good times, bad times, good times, bad times, right? And once I realized that pattern, it made those tough times much easier to handle because I'm like, okay, this
Interesting.
isn't going to stay overhead. And sure enough, a storm never stays right here over you.
Right. Right.
So once I realized this is just temporary,
Mm.
it's almost like you get this, all right, let's just learn what we need to learn and keep on going and you'll get out of it. So I started to realize that pattern and I started to accept those tough times as, all right, these are my learning times. Here we go. And equally, it made those really good times tougher too, because I'm like, rats, here comes a bad time. It's like you can't quite enjoy that great time because then you're
Right.
going to be sinking again as well. So
That's so interesting, the idea of, like, I mean, it's essentially what goes up comes down, right? You're gonna have the ups, you're gonna have the downs, and you're better off understanding that in advance that, when you're down, it'll pass, right? What's that saying from about "This too shall pass," right?
this too shall pass.
When
Yeah.
it's up,
Hallelujah.
enjoy it while it's there. Something's gonna happen inevitably, whether it's something politically, globally, an health issue, something is going to happen and you're going to go back down, but it's a ride and the ride continues.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And I take some of those lessons with me now, in business
absolutely.
and life, and it gives you more patience. After you've walked around the world one step at a time, you really have patience for, anything in business.
That makes sense.
It's like, all right, here we go.
Right. Right. Like, this isn't that big of a deal.
Yeah. There's this great chart. I don't know if you've seen this meme, and it's like, success doesn't go from here to here. It goes.
It's true.
You're right. And that's how I think of those times.
I think I did an episode. I was hiking and it made me think of, like, the trail is never straight. Even if it's paved, like, so we have a mountain here, a national battlefield called Kennesaw Mountain, and they have the hiking trail through the woods, but they also have a paved one you can drive a car up, but it's not straight up, right? It curves and it goes around the mountain and up. And even when you're halfway, if you wanna stop, you can't just, like, jump off the mountain and be back to you still have to go and do something, whether it's up or down. And
Right.
it's not a straight path, like, it's always gonna have turns that are unexpected, but all those turns are there to help you,
I
and I
like
try to think about that, when you go down a path that you're like, "I don't know, like, what does this have to do with what I wanna do?" And then you reflect on it later like, "Oh, that taught me," or "That prepared me," because there's so many skills and things just from living and doing things that help in ways that you don't anticipate for your future.
Yeah.
If that makes any
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. I like that metaphor.
Yeah, it's all about the mountain
I'll
hike.
steal that. I'll steal that from
Yeah.
you.
You can't stop on the middle of the trail because you gotta keep going one way or the other, up or down. That's my theory anyways. You said this has helped you in business. Pray tell. What do you mean by
Yeah.
this?
I think again the patience
Yeah.
and I listen to business podcasts and stuff about people that have gone on, started from scratch and, took over the world in whatever industry, you know, world
I took over
domination.
the world.
And, and that's a model, to just get from A to Z as fast as possible. And I still go my pace that I say to get
Mm.
around the world. It's just like I just keep going one step, one step. In fact, I have it's right here. So every single day I write 3 things I've done that day that moved me forward in business.
Oh, I love that.
Every single day I write one of them in 3 things. Has to be 3 things. In fact, at night, if I'm writing down my things, I'm like, God, I don't have a 3rd thing. What can I do? One more thing that brings me
Mm.
forward, right? And that focus to take 3 more steps every day. And I look back even a year ago, and it's stunning how far you come when you take small steps. So when I was looking at that article in the newspaper and saw that walker, I'm thinking, all that man is doing is putting one foot in front of the other.
Yeah.
And I became amazed at the power of the single step, the power of putting one step in front of the other. Because singularly, you don't get too far, but you chain them together. And these single steps can be so powerful that they can serve as your transportation around the world. And that means across borders, up over various kinds of terrain, different weather, different cultures and histories and languages and ideas and foods.
And foods.
Always about food.
Gotta love food.
And I still love that idea. And I guess that's the concept in my head when I relate what I did with my walk around the world to business. It's like 3 steps every day is that chain of steps that can become so powerful. And it's 3 steps. And it's funny because I've been doing this for years. I've been doing this for years. And I keep them all in a box. Well, not too long ago, a few months ago, I looked back at this old box of these notes. I call it the Gimme 3 Steps box.
It's a good name. It's a good name. I need one. I'm gonna start one now.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's fun to look back on. And I just grabbed a couple and isn't that cute? It was like, early stages of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, our processes have changed, and the industry that I'm in has changed, and the world has changed, and all with 3 steps. So even when you lose momentum, I tell people, okay, just pick 3 steps today. 1, go to the computer. B, turn it on. And 3, pull up a document you want to start on. 3 steps. That's all you got to do. Go. So, but what happens? And then you choose 3 more. Okay, well, I want to think of a first sentence I have to write. Okay, just work on the first sentence. Anyway, what happens is it starts to create momentum. Just 3 steps at a time. 3 steps. So I'm a big fan of that. And that's really what I have taken with me from my walk. And that lesson has come later with all that space in between from when I finished to now. I can look back and go, yeah, I got that lesson from this walk. I think because you don't know what lessons you're going to take with you. You don't know what you're going to remember and what's going to stick with you all the time.
Right.
You don't know at the time. And I'm sure there's major things I've completely forgotten about. It's like, oh yeah, weren't you kidnapped and in a cave with Osama bin Laden? Oh yeah, I forgot all about that. No. Right? Probably huge things that have happened. I've forgotten about those, but no, it is funny when I look back on the journals and go, wow, I totally forgot about that. It's some huge thing.
That's so interesting. Well, what I like what you just said at the end though was like, they don't have to be these like huge steps. They don't, because I think, and I've talked about this recently too, was like, we often get this advice, like do the one little thing. But when they say little thing, our minds go to something so much more grand than what it needs to be, instead of something as simple as, okay, I'm going to go to my computer. I'm going to turn it on and I'm going to open that document. And those 3 things are 3 things, because we discount the little things and think, oh, well, that's not really my 3 step. I didn't really, I had to do something more grand. Oh, did I create the best, I don't know, Instagram post or whatever, right? Did I complete the project altogether? No. Did you start the project? Did you make a little bit of forward progress on it? Great. That's the beginning. Because a lot of times things need revision and redoing and other people's input to make them even better anyways. But if you just start with those little itty bitty things and give yourself the credit for those small things, that makes a huge difference. And I think that's where the power is in what you're saying, is like, give yourself the credit even for the small things.
And I'm not good at that. I have a business coach too, and she always talks about, celebrate something that you've done, even if it's every day. The celebration could be, I have this buzzer that it's a cheers. Listen to this.
Oh my God, I need that. I love
So
that.
even if it's that and you do a little dance all to yourself, it could be as simple as that, or, take yourself to lunch, or have a drink with a friend, something to celebrate. And I'm not very good at it.
Right.
You know,
I don't think many of us are. That's something Jordan Peterson has talked about. Like, give yourself those small rewards, but
Mm,
actually follow through on them and be intentional. Like, don't just get a random cup of coffee. Say, okay, I'm going to do this thing today, and then I'm going to reward myself with that cup of coffee. And make it intentional, but then follow through with it so that your own words have meaning to yourself.
okay. I'll take that with me. My business coach been on my ass about that for a long time. I'm like,
Like, dang it. All
Right.
right, fine. I'm the same because I forget about it. I'm like, all right. Like, well, how do you reward yourself? And it doesn't have to be food, but often it is.
For me, it is. So there it is.
I love food, so I am there with you. That's how my man got me. He was like, I'll cook for you if you come over and help me do this stuff. I was like, I'm in.
You said the magic words.
He did. We're still together 5 years later. He's still cooking. It's great.
Damn, I gotta find me one of those. A man that cooks.
Oh man, he's Italian. That was part of, I think, what happened there.
Nice job.
I know. Well, I have taken up more time of yours than I intended, but you've been such a delight. And I want to thank you for coming on and sharing your wisdom, because I really think you said some amazing things, like take every single opportunity to not be stupid. I liked that.
I hope that's on my tombstone or something. She did something stupid.
She said yes to Amanda. That was questionable, probably, but no, I'm just kidding. You also said learn to be prepared to be unprepared. I think that's awesome. Take a breath and pause for a moment. And then just remember that there's bad times and good times, and there's a pattern. It's going to go up, it's going to go down. But at the end of the day, every day, write down 3 things that moved you forward on your business or your goals. Small things, even like just getting up, getting dressed before 9 a.m. I don't know, whatever.
Today had a podcast with Amanda.
Whoa. Yes. We chatted. We
What
had a
else
good
will
time.
happen today?
I'm on the list. I feel good. Well, thank you so much for being here. If the people want to get in touch with you, your website, is that the best place for them to reach out?
That's a good one. And that's my walk around the world website and speaking. And I wrote a book too. So I'll have to get that all linked up. It's got, I have it right here. 3 miles per hour.
Make you big.
There's my girl. The Adventures of One Woman's Walk Around the World.
So cool.
And good times, bad times, grumpy times. When I started this book, I said, I got to be honest about my story. And that's even when I looked bad, lost my patience, pulled my stupid move, blah, blah, blah. So if you're going to write a memoir, you got to tell all. You know what I'm saying?
I love it. I love it. You know what I noticed? You have it on Kindle. You have an Audible version.
Yeah.
You have a documentary. I think that's so awesome. So you have all the ways somebody might want to consume it.
Yes, I actually did the narration. So
did you? That's cool.
For what that's worth to anybody. Yeah.
So I think it's cool. I'm a nerd about these things.
I don't know how good I did that, but there you go.
That is A-okay. And where's your favorite place on socials to hang out if they want to just connect and say hi?
I do Facebook.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's about it. It's my name. Trying to get off social media. So
my dog just totally busted in the closed door and scared the crap out of me. So I apologize for that. He's like, hey. And here he is to say hi to the world.
That's a honey. Hi, honey.
You gonna yawn? You want to say goodbye to everybody? Say thank you for tuning in. We appreciate it. Well, you don't, because you were like, why are you guys taking away Mom? Jeez.
Right.
Well, it's Polly,
food time.
It's playtime, food time. It's something time. when you're a puppy, it's always time to do something. Well, thank you for coming on. If anybody has any questions, any thoughts, please feel free to leave those in the comments and we'll be happy to answer them, or reach out to Polly because Polly's awesome. And you want to have her come and talk with you guys out there in the world. But thank you for being here. And as always, if you need a high five, come on back to the Yes You May show and I will help bring you back up with all the interesting peoples like Miss Polly. Polly, thank you for
Thanks
coming
for
on.
having me, Amanda.
You are very welcome. Thank you for showing up and being amazing. We will see you guys next week. Thank you so much.